energy. That's the kind of energy that we need here at Paul and Saul.
The ready as I'll ever be energy.
Because this week on Paul and Saul, we have 4 big stories to cover for you guys. I mean, just some crazy stuff is happening this week. And we have a really big Wilkerson County Commission meeting that's coming up on Tuesday that you're going to want to know about. A lot of big things going on there as well. But first of all, Paul Schoberg, how in the world are you doing?
I'm doing better than I deserve, man. Much better than some of these other people that we're about to talk about. I mean, people behaving badly. Talk about people behaving badly.
Allegedly behaving badly, but still not great to be accused of some of these things that these people are being accused of. But we'll talk about them all here on Paul and Saul. So, Paul, before we get into this, I see you're wearing another noggin toboggan. What you got on your head
today
week?
We're rocking the Bayou Pub in Niceville, Florida. It's a small little cute blue house that's hidden right off Parton behind PB&J Cafe. They got outdoor seating. They got indoor seating. They have a variety of beers to try and other beverages too. Sometimes they have wine night and Slurpee night. So I would encourage everyone to give it a try. It's going to be it's a great place. It's low key and it's delicious.
That's actually where I met my wife. Fun fact.
There you go. Bayou Pub, Niceville, Florida.
So, Bayou Pub, guys. It's a great place to be, a great place to hang out. And it's all part of the Central Parton complex, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's called a complex, but a bunch of cool stuff going on down there on Parton Drive. So we're excited to see what happens down there, especially as we move forward. But let's go right into our local headlines that we need to cover with you guys this week. The first things first, why don't you tell us a little bit about this whole thing going on here with DeSantis' beach access?
Yeah, so, if you've been around here for a while and you're local, you know that this has sort of ebbed and flowed over time. But DeSantis came and signed a Senate Bill 1622 into law. It's a bill that directly affects how and where people get to walk on the beach. So,
yeah. And this has been the same fight that's been going on for almost a decade, since 2018. Basically, this thing, it's really convoluted, but do you want to take a crack at it, Paul? I mean, basically, it's like we're going back, we're going forth. There's some laws. There's apparently Roman fishing nets involved. But it
comes down to this term called customary use, and historically, how has that beach area been used? And in 2018, there was a law that passed about customary use in court that people, how the beach was used, like where people could walk, what private landowners could claim about access to the beach. And, obviously beachgoers want to keep the beach as public as possible. And those who live on the beach sometimes don't want to watch people walk through their backyards, which, they consider the beach their backyard.
Yeah. And so what this bill essentially does is it takes the county, now it takes it back to where before 2018, where the county would say, hey, we believe that there is customary use in this area. And then the beachfront owner, as it were, would be able to say, well, I don't think so, and I can prove it. But, that's where we're back to now with this. But that doesn't mean that this fight is actually over. There's still plenty of lawsuits and legalese and hemming, hawing, tomfoolery that's going to take place before we have kind of a fully fleshed out area. And I think maybe something that isn't on our script or kind of our notes today is that this has a really big deal or impact on tourism here in the area, because sure, there's, 24 miles of beach in Walton County and some number of that is public, but a lot of people, their retirement accounts, their investments are all kind of like tied up in owning a beach house in Walton County that maybe isn't on the beach. And so they rely on public access or people's ability to access the sand as a way to, on their retirement. And if this thing doesn't get sorted out eventually and clearly, because there's so much fog of war around this, right, where people aren't exactly sure who's allowed to do what, when, it's going to have a long-term effect on tourism in Walton County, because who wants to go somewhere where you might not be able to go to the beach, but you paid all this money?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people, when you come specifically from outside the area, you assume that the beach is for everybody. And it's a really negative experience if you're, setting up your stuff on the beach and private security or a private landowner comes out and rudely, most of the time rudely, kicks you off. And so, we see it affecting tourism. It's definitely on the message boards and on Reddit and other places about feeling unwelcome on our beaches.
Yeah, and I would ultimately say that business and commerce doesn't like uncertainty. And if there's anything that is a constant about this whole situation, it is the level of uncertainty that surrounds it. Because we'll post a story and it'll be like, no, this isn't true. These 72 pieces of this minutia in the law. And like, that's all well and good. And there might be 37 different pieces of minutia that if thens and whatever. But when people aren't sure what they're able to do and they've been yelled at by people consistently, like, why would you want to go back? Why wouldn't you just go to Panama City or anywhere else in Florida or anywhere
Well,
else in the country?
unfortunately, I don't think this law does a great job of like necessarily clearing that up.
This next story is a little bit awkward for two white guys with a podcast to talk about, but it's really important because it's happened here and you should know about it. Welcome back to Paul and Saul. I am Saul. He is Paul. And today's story is really serious. It's also messy. It's uncomfortable. It's still kind of unfolding, man.
Yeah, you've been tracking this one and doing a really good job of sort of doing some investigative reporting about the Valparaiso Fire Department. And there's accusations there that the fire chief, David Lanier, used some racial slurs in front of firefighters.
Yeah, and so I want to come out and say immediately, like, hey, these are accusations. They haven't been verified by the Valparaiso City, commissioners or the police department, but they're still very serious and they're corroborated, which is why I'm even bringing them up right now. Because if somebody says, oh, my boss said something mean and I don't like them, we're not going to report that. But when there's multiple corroborations and the city of Valparaiso says a investigation is underway, so they won't give me any records on the situation, that tells me that this is very serious and they're really looking into it with all of their might. So it started with two firefighters, David Rodriguez and Larry Hudson, who filed complaints officially with the city at this point. They say that Chief Lanier repeatedly used what I'm going to say is the N-word, and I think you guys all know what that means because we're all adults. And so basically, Rodriguez even showed me these text messages that he got that are in a group. So it's a very small fire department. There's 9 firefighters, and in this, or 7, firefighters at this point, and all 7 of them were in this group text, with the exception of the chief. And basically, it said like stuff like, "I can't believe he said this to you. I can't believe he said this in front of us." All this stuff. So it's not something that just kind of appeared out of nowhere. These text messages seem pretty damning, man.
Yeah, it's messed up, and I sort of live by the rule that if Eminem can't even say it, then I'm not going to say it either. So we grew up in this day and age of the N-word flying around, and but it's not something that we should be saying. It's not part of our culture, and I have a feeling it wasn't. It was a hard R and not the light R, allegedly. But
so that's what these 2 firefighters are saying. But they also say that he didn't deny saying the word in this meeting that they had with, the police chief and the city commissioner in charge of the fire department. They allege that when they were in this meeting, the fire chief said like, yeah, but everybody else was saying it too, which is, if that's true, that's not incredible leadership, not just because of the language used, but I mean, the buck kind of stops with you when you're a department director.
Yep, and the city is doing the right thing. They're actively investigating this. They've locked down the internal files related to the complaint, which means we're not going to see anything from this really until the investigation is complete.
Yeah, and I mean, for a department, this is their like 4th or 5th month of operation, and this is their 2nd fire chief. So they had a fire chief who technically wasn't their full-time fire chief. He was a consultant, but they split ways at the end of last month. And now this is Chief Lanier's 3rd week as fire chief, and stuff like this has already come up. They're a mixed department, which means that they have volunteers, they have part-time firefighters, and then they have full-time firefighters on staff. But they're still having trouble, according to the firefighters that are making these complaints, because this whole complaint to me was not just about the racist language that was allegedly used. It's also about manning. So the firefighter said that he was the only firefighter on duty when he had to run a truck, which he's not very familiar with because he's a very junior firefighter. NFPA, which is the fire protection accreditation body, says that you should have 4 firefighters on the truck. He was all by himself one day on a Saturday. They couldn't find people to show up for work between the part-timers and the volunteers. And so they also have a total of, like I said, 7 firefighters. And the NFPA standards say that you should have 3 or 4 firefighters per shift. So this is quickly becoming an issue for safety and public safety for these firefighters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why the city of Valparaiso continues to have these challenges. I mean, this is, what you just named is just the beginning of the laundry list. You add on the remodeling of the firehouse and the issues there with mold and being the short staffed and gone their second, I mean, you named them all already. And it's just crazy that how poorly this has gotten off the ground and just sort of kind of continues to make me think that we should be merging these fire departments together, not only for the cost savings, but it sounds like for the health and safety of our citizens to begin with. If I lived in
Yeah.
Valparaiso, I would be extremely concerned by all of these issues just in the firehouse alone, let alone all the other issues Valp has.
So to add on to that point, the fire department is supposed to have a response time of under 60 seconds. And I haven't gotten official response times from Valparaiso, but these two firefighters are claiming to me that it took them 3 or 3.5 minutes to get from their hotel room in Niceville where they were staying. And I do have receipts from that to the firehouse where the fire truck was. Then they could go to the call. And so they said typically it's about a 3-minute drive from the hotel to the firehouse. So you're already 3 times the national standard. That's a serious issue when it's life or death, when minutes count. And so they eventually, according to one of the city commissioners now, they have moved them from that hotel over to the Synovus Bank building. It's supposed to become City Hall eventually at some point whenever they get finished. I mean, it's been 3 or 4 years at this point. But yeah, this is a serious safety issue at this point.
Yeah, these are public safety jobs. The stakes are super high. These allegations are serious. All these issues are serious. It's on the city now to act transparently, investigate everything, and make the right decision for the populace. And, this isn't the end of this story. This story is going to go on for a lot longer, I think.
I think so as well. You go first.
Let's talk about the next story. So the next story, FPL, they kind of screwed up, man. So there's a headline about red clay leaking into one of our crystal clear lakes. They're doing some sort of solar plant construction, and a berm broke. And so now we got, literally mud in the water.
Yeah, and so this is over in Wilkerson Creek, which is kind of in Holt area. The FPL is putting together what they call the kayak solar farm facility, a ton of solar panels to generate electricity, which is really ironic because it's located smack dab in the middle of like Chelco's service area. So all the solar power being generated won't be used locally, like in that immediate area anyway. It's going to come down here to like Niceville and be used. But the long story short is that, yeah, this berm broke, and the champion fighting to get stuff fixed has not necessarily been the county commission or anything like that. It's been State Senator Don Gates who's come out from the top rope on this story, and he's not thrilled with FPL as an organization already. He's told me, he wants to regulate their profits to and basically marry it to the 10-year Treasury note, so like 3 to 4% growth instead of the 8 to 9% growth they usually have. His argument, obviously, is that FPL is basically a government monopoly, and they're performing a government function, and therefore they should be making government level profits. And so that kind of brings us back to his involvement with this solar panel berm breakage. He's been there. He has a number of staff members on this thing. And essentially, they're trying to figure out exactly what happened and exactly what FPL needs to do next.
Yeah, this happened on or around June 8th. And, after a couple of weeks, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection stepped in. They sent FPL a warning letter on June 20th. About their erosion failures and violation of permits, and now there's a formal investigation underway to figure out what happened, and what could be done to mitigate this for the future, but also clean up after the mess currently.
Yeah, so Crestview, I went and did some research because I've always kind of like heard apocryphally that Crestview is like pretty rainy. It gets a lot of rain per year. I had no idea it was the 16th rainiest city in America. At one point, a couple of years ago, it was the rainiest city in America. That number, of course, goes up and down. But I mean, you have an environmental engineering background. So when you hear all this stuff about like berms and washouts and heavy rains, where is your mind thinking? What are you tinkering on when you're thinking about this situation?
Well, probably a lot of those policies are based on averages. And, just to sort of piggyback on what you just said, if Crestview is receiving, or that area of Okaloosa County is receiving above average rain, above the average, maybe these construction berms and policies aren't being set properly for that geographic area. So I think what it's going to come down to is a lot of finger pointing. You're going to have FP&L saying, well, we built it like we were supposed to build it. and it didn't work. How that's not our fault. Meanwhile, the public and politicians are going to be pointing their fingers right back at FPL.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that there's going to be some finger pointing, but I think that Don Gates's team. I mean, look, Don Gates is a powerful guy. He was not the Senate president for nothing, and I think that that means that if there's one person that can put a little bit of fear into the hearts of the FP&L, it's probably him. I mean, he didn't get this bill passed last year to regulate the profits of FP&L, but it got through several committees. He made stuff happen on this bill, which I mean, there were multiple people that were in his way that were in the pockets, frankly, of FP&L. I mean, they got hundreds of thousands of dollars from FP&L in this last election cycle, and they still couldn't kill it in the crib. I mean, this thing had legs. And so I'm interested to see how he uses this, because he's a very political animal. He knows how to use a good crisis. And so I'm interested to see how he uses this, what this looks like. But I'm also interested to see what the county commission does about this, because this is in their backyard. They're the ones that are helping with DEP. They have to issue permits. There was a super duper top secret meeting that I got wind of that happened over the weekend with Jimmy Petronas, County Commission Chairman Paul Mixon, and of course Don Gates and Nathan Boyle's the state rep up there. But I want to know where Sherry Cox is. Sherry Cox is the representative for this area, and we haven't heard boo from her since before she got elected, and that was a year ago. I don't make sport out of calling people that are more powerful than me out, but this is a continuing issue where we have not heard anything from the person that represents this area. And that's a problem for me. I want to know what she's doing. I want to know where she is. I want to know who she's talking to fix this issue, because ultimately, like, these people are represented directly by her. I mean, we vote for all the commissioners, but this is the person that's supposed to be, in charge of this stuff, that's supposed to be on top of this stuff. It's supposed to be communicating with FP&L. And sure, like, I don't think FP&L was like, we're going to get this burn to blow out, because this is a huge issue for them too. But like, I want my elected officials to go out there and like make sure that stuff gets fixed and people are held responsible.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it should be a meeting she should be at. So if she wasn't, that's a little weird. It is interesting for Nathan Boyles just because of where he was and now where he is positioned politically. I'm glad he was there. But when the general public talks about our politicians not doing anything for the environment, or especially these Republican leaders not doing anything for the environment, meeting on the weekend to talk about something like this, shows great promise. And if the environment is important to you, you should be happy that they were meeting over a weekend to try to solve this problem. So I guess we'll have to see how it plays out.
Exactly, man. I'm going to do the ad read. Can't get enough local sports? Want the latest on high school teams on the Emerald Coast and the alums that are playing in college? Check out the Emerald Coast Sports Show right now on our sister channel, the Emerald Coast Sports Show. I know, really well named. We have all the latest on the show, from schedules and lineups to everything that's going on during the season. We're going to be there on ECSS to make sure you have the latest information and you know exactly what's going on with your favorite teams and players. Check us out on YouTube by searching for, you guessed it, the Emerald Coast Sports Show, or by looking us up on your favorite podcast app.
Welcome back, guys, to the Paul and Saul Show. We got a little bit of local drama brewing, local government drama, and got a little physical in Fort Walton Beach. Why don't you tell us, Saul, what happened?
Ooh, brother. So it got pretty tense, according to our reporting in Mid-Bay News by intrepid gumshoe reporter Colin Bester. At the 24th of June City Council meeting, former Councilman Travis Smith came forward and said that the current Charter Review Committee Chairman, Mike Minich, physically pushed him after they had a meeting a few days earlier on June the 20th.
Like physically pushed him, like shoved him?
Yeah, like got in his face and did that. And according to Smith, yeah, like he told the council during this public comment section that Minich had put hands on him after this Charter Review Committee meeting. And like, I don't know how many Charter Review Committee meetings you've been to, but they're typically rather dull affairs.
Sure.
They're usually like, well, guys, the policy says, then we should like, and not that to diminish what they do, but let's be honest, it's for policy wonks. Anyway.
I mean, it's super interesting. It should never get down to fisticuffs or any physical action. None of it is that serious. People are not dying here. But what is the city going to do?
Okay, so they're going to have a meeting in the immediate future, at some point, not the immediate future, in the near future, to discuss this. So Councilman Payne Walker said, "Hey, I want to remove this guy from the board right now," at that city council meeting last week. And he said, and I'm quoting here, "I don't care what the law says, I want him removed." That motion didn't get a second, but it did kind of evolve from there. So City Attorney Jeff Burns stepped in and said, "Hey, city code requires a public hearing before you can remove somebody from misconduct, and it's a due process thing, right? So if you don't have a hearing, you can't fire them. And that means they need to set up a hearing."
So somebody's got a motion to bring this along further into a hearing state.
Yes, so Councilman David Schmidt made a substitute motion to say, "Hey, let's have this meeting on August the 12th, which is their next regular council meeting." And that one passed 4-3. Mayor Nick Allegretto was the one that cast the tie-breaking vote.
Well, did the alleged shover respond to this in any way?
The alleged shover defended himself, according to Nick Allegretto, who said that he didn't deny pushing it, but let me try that again. So yeah, Nick Allegretto being the mayor of the city of Fort Walton Beach, sorry, just kind of like, Nick Allegretto, said he talked to Minich early in the day and said that Minich didn't deny that he shoved former councilman Travis Smith. It's wild. But we also reached out via Colin to Minich himself, and he declined to comment kind of overall.
Probably smart on his part. So, I mean, it sounds like this might go beyond just like a personal thing, like it might be work related.
Yeah, so that's part of the debate. Councilman Jeter warned against turning the council into what he called a Judge Judy debate stage, basically. And Councilman Merrill said that, we shouldn't be putting hands on each other, but he didn't want to be a judge and jury without more facts, is kind of what he said.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if the council voted 4-3, there's some people on the council, including the mayor, that think this is worth investigating further and talking about at this hearing.
Yeah, and so Councilman Schmidt was pretty clear on this. He says, like, hey, if he put hands on him, he's got to go, but everybody's entitled to a trial in America. So here we are. So his direct quote was like, "It makes me sick to think that something like this happened. I guess we'll find out exactly how sick, and because there's going to be a vote at some point." There's a special meeting, though, scheduled for July 8th at 3 p.m., and that came out of that same discussion. Walker, Schmidt, and Allegretto all supported the idea of acting sooner if needed. They'll use that meeting to revisit this issue and might even hold the hearing then.
Yeah, so if that happens, we'll have an update just in a week and a half or 2 weeks or so. So stay tuned.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being here on Paul and Saul. And we need to thank our donors for this week, recurring donors. We have a couple of new recurring donors. I'm very excited about that. Our boy, your boy, Salt and Light realtor extraordinaire John Salman has put some money up to make sure that we can continue to do this show. So thank you so much, John.
Thanks, John.
Also, thank you, Kelly and Chris, Jane, Wayne, Joshua, Paul, Kelly, Jamie Lee, and Tim for your recurring donations. We really appreciate you. It keeps this thing going. And if you want to help us out, midbaynews.com/donate is the place to go. That helps us keep stuff like this on the air so that we can tell you what the news is. And you don't have to, shovel through word of mouth for 15 hours, which I think is neat. Anyway, let's see.
Look ahead.
Not a lot of stuff this week coming up, but a lot of good stuff. Wait, that doesn't even make sense. Not a lot of meetings, but some good stuff that's coming out of the one meeting we have this week. The Okaloosa County Commission is meeting this week on Tuesday. A couple of big things going on. So first thing to talk about is the Eglin West Gate project. So for people that may not be familiar with this one, the Eglin West Gate project is this idea between Team Eglin, the 96 Test Wing, and the Okaloosa County Board of County Commissioners. They want to make the west side, the West Gate, kind of a renewed area. They want to upgrade it, make it a better, more efficient place. But really, the specifics of the idea are not there yet. They've kind of jumped through the first hurdle, and now here comes the second hurdle, which is a 30-month study. It's a PD&E study that basically is going to tell the county and tell the Air Force Base, like, hey, this is what we need to do. This is, the path forward. And so basically PD&E stands for Project Development and Environment Study, which means they're going to get like a lot of the background stuff, get a lot of the other information they need before they can move forward on something more specific. So it's almost $2 million to put something like this together, and is also, as a part of this, Eglin and Okaloosa County have agreed to work together for another 3 years on this project.
Well, I guess that's good news. That's progress. Things getting upgraded, nicer stuff. That's good for all of us.
Everybody likes nice stuff,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. What else we got?
So shallow water fads, and it's not just a fad anymore because it's been happening for years, folks. The fish aggregating devices, that's fads. I know, very clever, Christopher. Thank you. Thank you, guys. They have decided to deploy some fads in a shallower area. So these fish aggregating devices are pretty big. And if you think of the floor of the Gulf around here like a big desert, it's like the Sahara Desert. There's not a lot of places for life to grow because of the sand that's out there. And so they need these things, fish aggregating devices, to get fish to stick around a little bit longer and kind of like nibble on stuff, and for algae to grow and do things like that. So that's why we're like throwing all these ships like the SS United States into the Gulf and putting these fads out there. Well, they've done this for, further out, 60 to 80 miles out, where like charter fishermen are typically the only people that are going to go out there, commercial fishermen. But they want to put some closer ones in, so something like 20, 30 miles offshore, and that'll expand access. This is something that the county is going to have to vote on because they want to use a specific vendor. And this vendor, Walter Marine, has been one of the more successful FAD deployment specialists, which is a big deal because they've had a lot of failed FADs. Wow, just like a lot of alliteration on this one. And so they want to make sure that these things don't fail, they get put down wrong, and they don't catch, or they don't get algae, and then all of a sudden it's, however many thousands of dollars down the drain. So they want to put 8 with Walter Marine, a specific one. And if they put it out to bid, it'd be a little bit different. But they said, these are the guys, we're going to go with them. They're going to pay them or give them $500,000 to put these things out there. So hopefully, fads for the people. Get them a little bit closer so you don't have to have, a real high speed charter fishing boat to go and fish these guys.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they call Destin one of the luckiest fishing villages for a reason. We have fantastic fishing here. These FAD devices are nothing new in other regions and parts of the world. They can be done properly. And if you only got to go 30 miles out instead of 60 to 80, that's pretty good.
It's less gas, my guy.
Listen, I'll take it. Less gas. That's expensive.
I'm telling you, because if you might not catch like a 500-pound marlin or whatever. I don't even know if that's a thing. Sorry, I'm not fishy, but you might get something smaller, which is just as good because you're not running a charter business and you just are going for funsies. So I'm excited to see that thing. Anyway, next thing on the list is the Air Force Enlisted Village expansion. So if you're familiar with the Air Force Enlisted Village, it's a place it's set up so that people that retired from the military, that were enlisted, or their spouses, their surviving spouses, can have a place to live in older age. It's like an assisted living facility kind of thing. Well, I guess it's independent living. This next piece that they want to do, Victory Village, is going to be more assisted living facility kind of thing, but they have to rezone a bunch of stuff at the Okaloosa County Commission from military use to mixed use so that they can put single family homes or duplexes or apartment complexes for these people to come and live. It's roughly slated to have about 2,000 residence units, which would be a huge win for the Air Force Enlisted Village. A lot of people need this kind of housing, especially around here with how as expensive as it is, and the fact that a lot of older people are staying in their single family homes because of the value and the fact that people can't come in and buy them as easily. So having a place to go will make it so that people can get out of the market a little bit earlier and not have a albatross around their neck, a very expensive home that they can't afford to leave.
Yep, this is just one more example of trying to do something more affordable and attainable for our community. It's obviously not the only thing we need to do, but it's super important. I want to talk about the next one real quick because it's making me way sad. So
yeah.
Kristen Schell, who's been the deputy city manager of Niceville, who has done a lot in her short period of time with the city of Niceville to help make Niceville a better place. She's taken a job with the county as the growth management director, and I'm personally going to just miss her. She's a great person to work with. She has made the city of Niceville very easy to work with. I'm sure a lot of those things that she's set up will continue. But man, Niceville's losing in Okaloosa County.
I think I just lost you there at the end, man. Can you check your sound?
Oh. Yeah, let me try again. She's done a lot of great things for the city of Niceville, and man, the city of Niceville is losing on this one, and Okaloosa County is gaining.
So my hope is that because she's in Okaloosa County, that still means a lot of benefit for us, just not as much and as concentrated. So it's a win for the county, and I don't want to say it's a loss for Niceville because she'll still have a hand in what Niceville's doing, but it's less time, right? And somebody with 5 master's degrees doesn't just like show up and like do as much as she does. You don't really get those off the rack at Walmart. So Kristen has been a huge positive for the city of Niceville. And man, I'm rooting for her. She's gonna if they approve her, which I mean, like if you don't, like, what are you doing? But she's gonna be their growth management director. So I think what this means is that you need to start looking at development in Blue Water. That's what that means.
Well, I'm not sure what it means for me personally, but I do want to wish Kristen, congratulations. I know it's not in stone yet; it's written in pencil, but like you said, I think it's sort of a done deal, and I wish her the best of luck. I think she'll enjoy that job. It'll allow her to operate on a slightly bigger stage, and it'll be good for the county as a whole.
Well, this show so far has been brought to you by the folks at Movement Mortgage, specifically with Team Steve Shutt. Team Shutt. Anyway, we are so thrilled to have Steve and his team as sponsors of this podcast because they do good and they do well, right? So they make sure that your mortgage from stem to stern goes easy. You don't have to worry about stuff. Even before you sign on the dotted line and after you close on your house, they're there for you. They make sure that all of your stuff is buttoned up. You can call them a year later. They'll figure it out for you. Because they hold on to your mortgage. And so that means that you don't have to find somebody in Bangladesh or wherever at the call center. Instead, you just get Steve. And Steve's a nice guy. I like to hang around him. And that's why we office at Movement Mortgage, because he's a good guy, smart guy, and he really cares about you. So if you need a mortgage, which all of us do at some point, talk to Steve. Steve knows what he's doing. Steve's a nice guy, and Steve will do you right. And frankly, I think he's fantastic. All right, we're back. Welcome back to Paul and Saul. No interview today. I know. But we do have our community mailbag. And you know what, Paul, I think you should take this first one, considering that you're the one that wrote it.
Well, you had this really good image capture on the Gates and FPNL story with them arm wrestling. I thought it was hilarious. I just made a comment on the post that the image that you used for the post was chef's kiss, my friend.
Look, and I'm not the kind of guy to toot my own horn. I absolutely am. But it was very good. And I used AI to like create like, hey, I need Don Gates to be arm wrestling an anthropomorphic FP&L logo, and boom, that popped up. So I'm not saying that AI is going to take all of our jobs and destroy humanity. But if they do, if it's producing that kind of content, I mean, what do we have to complain about?
Yeah. Well done. It's all in the prompt making. Yeah. Well done.
I would like to think that was all me. But like, I kind of feel like the Scottie Pippen to AI's Michael Jordan. Anyway, a lot of comments this week about our story on the bill signing for Senate Bill 1622. A lot of people saying, well, this isn't right and that's not right and this specific thing. So I'm just going to read what the all the analysts over there at the state government who do this full time for a living say about this thing. Basically, Senate Bill 1622 repeals Florida Statute 163035, which establishes procedures the government entity must follow when attempting to establish recreational customary use of property. Statutory procedures include a public hearing to adopt a formal notice of intent to affected property owners, which notice alleges the existence of recreational customary use on the properties, and a judicial proceeding to consider whether the alleged customary use has been ancient, reasonable, without interruption, and free from dispute. The repeal of the statute means a return to how customary use rights were determined prior to enactment of the statute. There's 3 points here. 1, a governmental entity may declare the existence of a customary use and adopt a local customary use ordinance without following the procedures in 163.035. 2, property owners must file a lawsuit challenging the ordinance and demonstrate in court that the public does not enjoy customary use rights on their privately owned beaches. And 3, courts will apply the common law doctrine of customary use when ascertaining on a case-by-case basis whether the public enjoys customary use rights over privately owned beaches. This bill takes effect upon becoming a law. And friends, Romans, countrymen, it's not over. It's not even close to over. There's so many more lawsuits from this coming. Look, this is, like, from a newsman's perspective, this is the story that keeps on giving. I don't know what to tell y'all. This is, if it's not, I think it was the second most viewed story on our website this year. It's incredible. Like I get it. Look, everybody's here for the beach. I'm not dogging that. I'm just saying like that the strength of feeling with which surrounds this issue, I underestimated. So
Listen, I don't know where it's going to go. It's just going to be interesting. I don't think the legislation did us a ton of good. I mean, maybe it made the general public feel better a little bit, but I still think there's going to be a lot of gray and a lot of weird things going on in the future related to beach access.
I think, yeah, I think it's totally cloudy. I don't think it helps anybody, but it looks like a win from the press conference. And I think that sometimes looking like a win is just as important as being a win. In the meantime, we will take one of these and continue to write stories about it until you guys get tired of hearing about beach access, which I don't think is happening soon.
Well, real quick, I wanted to thank all of our listeners out there. I do run into you at Publix and other places in public, and you guys are awesome and have always treated me great. Our YouTube channel is doing quite well in our first couple of weeks. We've got almost 2,000 views across our shorts and our videos. And obviously we're available on anything, pretty much anywhere. If you are on Spotify, we're there. If you want to listen on Apple, we're there. If you're a YouTube person, we're there. If you're on Facebook, we're there. Find a place that we're not, and Christopher will make sure we end up on there. So there we go. And I don't want to hear him sing anymore.
Whenever you need me. Okay, I'll stop.
Thank you for supporting our show. And as always, be nice.
Say it again.
As always, be nice, Niceville.
You heard the man.
See ya.